some of the facial wounds, as determined by forensic pathologists. Bruising on both cheeks, eyes swollen shut, bruising around the eyes, right eyelid torn. Over 30 puncture wounds around the head. Part of the beard section is missing. Nose and jaw dislocated. Blood exiting nose and mouth. Pre-mortem and post-mortem blood. Evidence of rigor mortis. This is a shot of what Jesus would have looked like before he was scourged and crucified. And to say that Jesus was disfigured or that he suffered is an incredible understatement. Over 300 scourge wounds on the body. Dislocated shoulder, dislocated elbow, dislocated nose, dislocated jaw. If any one of us suffered even 1% of these wounds, we'd be in a hospital emergency room.
Details of a crime scene are not released to the public. Only vague information, sometimes even false info. Law enforcement will purposely release false information about a crime scene, so when they get a witness in an interrogation situation, when they interrogate a witness that comes forward and says, hey, I know what happened, if they can correct the false info, if they can disclose details of the crime scene that were not released to the public, they know they have what with certainty? A credible witness. Sometimes you'll have a case where someone that committed a crime will be at a bar bragging about a crime that they committed. Someone will overhear that conversation and go to the police and say, listen, I know who committed this crime. I heard him talking about it at the bar last night. He was talking about this person that he brutalized and killed. And according to the newspaper report, a neat circlet of thorns was put around this person's head, and he said no, it was a clump of thorns. But this isn't an example of false information that was released to the public through paintings about the crucifixion and death of Jesus, that he had this neat circlet of thorns put on his head, when in fact that's not true. It was more like a clump of thorns. This is a case where the Shroud of Turin corrects the false info. And what does that make the Shroud? A credible witness. More information, false information that was released to the public through paintings was that the nail, the crucifixion nail, went into the middle of the palm of Jesus, when in fact the nail wound went into the lower palm or the wrist and exited the wrist area. This is a case where the Shroud of Turin knows details of the crime scene that only someone who was at the crime scene could possibly know. And really, that's what the Shroud of Turin is. It's a witness. It's a witness that gives us a detailed account of events. When you have a witness that's deceptive or fake, their account of events is extremely vague. And then they have the point in time which they blacked out. Yeah, right before the victim was stabbed 120 times. Is that when you blacked out? Yeah. We thought so. Is that the story you want to stick with? Now tell us what really happened. This is a witness that knows what really happened. All right, this is a life cast body that I purchased from a film prop company in Los Angeles. They make dead body film props for the TV show Law and Order. But this is a life cast body. It's made of like a flexible rubber, forensically accurate to a real person, 5'11", laid on the shroud. This is a museum quality replica of the Shroud of Turin. The finest quality, most accurate that you can possibly purchase. And the difference is the body of Jesus was not lying flat like that. The knees were raised and the upper torso was leaning forward at an angle, exactly as you would see in the photos of the Garden Tomb. That angled board, that angled headboard, and the feet were in this position, like that. Very unusual. Still in the position of the crucifixion, locked into that position. All right, just so that we're clear, during the time the image was formed, when the image process took place, these feet were in this position. And as we can see, there was more than one nail used. That's more false information released by the public through paintings. And the shroud corrects that false info. There's 2 nails used. First one went into the right foot and then exited the heel. Just like it says in Scripture in Genesis that the heel of Jesus would be struck, on the shroud image we see one of the heels has been struck. We see an obvious blood flow coming from that area. Then the left foot goes over the right, and then a single nail goes through both feet. Also, as we stated, the knees were raised, and this knee is flexed inward on the shroud image. So there's no separation here. It's flexed inward in a really awkward position, as if it's dislocated slightly. Also, on the shroud image, one of the elbows, the right elbow, is dislocated. The right shoulder is lower than the left shoulder, so there's evidence of dislocation. Shoulder, dislocated elbow, dislocated left knee. Also, we see on the image in the shroud that the stomach is slightly swelled. And that does not occur until 48 hours after death. This is a way a forensic pathologist can determine time of death. In the case of the man in the shroud, at the time the image was formed, he had been dead for over 48 hours, but not longer than 72. And here on the face image of Jesus, we see part of the beard has been plucked out here. And from this side and this side, the full beard of Jesus looks something more like that. And as we can see, there's a lot of the beard section has been plucked out, just like it says in Scripture. I gave my back to those who struck me, and my cheeks to those who plucked out the beard. And we see severe bruising on this side, on the cheek here, and this side has less bruising, but both cheeks are very bruised. These are among many different details about the crime scene that the shroud tells us. The shroud witness tells us he was scourged by 2 people, and one was taller than the other. It says in Scripture, Mark 15:46, Joseph bought a long sheet of fine linen, and the Shroud of Turin says, yes, it was a long sheet of fine linen of Syrian weave, 8 by 2 cubits, 3 over 1 herringbone twill. Again, details. What's important about this image are the unique wounds in specific places. The side wound is 4 centimeters in width, the same width of a 1st century Roman lancia. The scourge wounds match a 1st century Roman flagrum. And these wounds, the wounds of Jesus, were moistened with something. They were dried, they were clotted, they were moistened with something before they made contact with the cloth, and that is a certainty. And just in mentioning that, Dr. Baima Balone, a forensic pathologist, a professor of forensic pathology, did some tests, wrote a scientific paper that the blood on the shroud tested positive for marinatos by antibody antigen testing. Right here we're looking at some like little blood drops. And notice they go away from the area of the head as if someone had a moist rag like this one, right? And then brought it across and it dripped, leaving this blood trail off to the side of the cloth. I would like to draw everyone's attention to this right here. This side strip that has a 1st century style stitching pattern. It starts here and it goes from one end of the cloth to the other, all the way down. It's an uneven cut. Okay? At some points it'll be 2 inches from here to here, some points 2.5, so other points it'll be at 3 inches. But it appears to be a side strip that was cut in haste. With that said, I'm going to fold this cloth over the body and show you why they cut this off. And they cut it off when? During the burial. So let's do that right now. I'm going to grab this end. Okay, I have now folded the cloth over the body. How are they going to secure this body? You're going to have to put strips around this body. You can't just... The body of Jesus was not put in the tomb like that. You need a strip of linen, so they cut it. Probably with a knife, just cut right along this edge. A strip like this. That's one of the linen strips that they used to wrap around the shroud. Just using common sense, a common sense approach to how this body would be wrapped would be like that. All right, so this is a close approximation to how the body of Jesus would have been wrapped. The linen clothes, the linen grave clothes of Jesus. You know, in the Gospel of John, he mentions, and then they wound the body in the linen clothes. He's talking about when they put this strip on. This is one of the reasons we probably see that horizontal blood flow going across the lower back was in putting this strip on and having to tilt the body to the side. Sure that they did a better job, a little bit neater, but we get the basic idea. Our point is that the one long strip of linen will go around the chin, the middle of the body, and to the feet. Just that one strip. All right, while we have this opportunity, the body of Jesus is wrapped in this long sheet of fine linen, as it was nearly 2,000 years ago. There is a cloth. It's mentioned in the Gospel of John. And the napkin that was about his head was not lying with the linen clothes, the grave clothes. The Shroud of Turin, or the grave clothes, were the grave clothes of Jesus. Was not lying with the grave clothes, with the linen clothes, but was wrapped together, folded together in a place by itself. What John was referring to is this cloth that was put around the head of Jesus while he was on the cross. And this cloth is just covered in blood and pulmonary edema fluid from the lungs. So when they removed it from Jesus, when they removed this cloth from his head, it was just, covered in blood like this. And then they folded it. They folded it together. When they did that, the blood stains from this side made an impression on this side. As you can see, these bloodstains on this side is a mirror image of this side because the cloth was, just like John said, it was folded together in a place by itself. There's not a lot of mention of this in shroud presentations, but just if you're wondering where the other separate cloth is, it's kept in Oviedo, Spain. Now it's wrapped together in a place by itself in Oviedo, Spain. But that's the Sudarium of Oviedo. That's what it's called. All right. Since we have this golden moment here, since we have this moment in time, it covered this 3D model, forensically accurate, to the image we see in the Shroud of Turin, to the man in the shroud, to Jesus, 5'11", approximately 170 pounds. I mean, I literally just covered this in blood. Face, the beard, the hands, everything. I'm not doing this to shock anyone, but we want to see what a contact image is going to look like. We're going to compare it side to side with a museum quality replica of the Shroud of Turin. And as we can see, just doing a side-by-side comparison, that's the face image of a contact image with a real, forensically accurate human face, and that's the Shroud of Turin. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist, Albert Einstein, or a Perry Mason, or a Sherlock Holmes to figure out that these two images look vastly different. And the process to create this image must have been much different than whatever was used for this. Does anyone watching this video think this face image looks like this one? Because that's the Shroud of Turin. Extremely high resolution. The equivalent of a modern day laser printer. And this was done in a medieval time, right? Because that's what the carbon dating says. Let's stand up here so we can see the whole picture. But what the carbon dating says, the carbon dating test is actually saying to us, is that in the year 1350, a decorated knight, Geoffrey de Charnay, rolled out a spanking brand new fabric like this one to our right. Brand new. Rolled out this 14-foot long cloth and said to a group of people, "I know this looks brand new, this fabric, but it's really 1,300 years old." See, there's a reason why that sounds absurd, ridiculous, and laughable. It's because it is. And that's exactly what the 1988 carbon dating test is. Absurd, laughable, and ridiculous. As ridiculous as this contact image looks. The optics say everything here. You know, next time someone says the word, "Hey, the shroud is a fake," just ask them to click on this video and say, "Well, do you want to see what a fake would look like?" See, now that's a fake. That's what a fake would look like. And that's what the real thing looks like. It's not just an incredible coincidence that the markings and the wounds on the man in the shroud match that of a Roman flagrum dated 70 AD from the 1st century. It's because these wounds were created by a 1st century Roman flagrum. But under microscopic examination, the scourge wounds, because they were exposed to the open air for minimum 30 minutes to several hours before making contact with the linen, the serum separated from the blood and migrated to the edges of the wounds. So under microscopic examination, these scourge wounds, under UV light, you can see serum halo rings, serum that has migrated to the edges of the wound. To explain that into simple language, what does that mean? It means that the blood is real. It means that these are real wounds from a real person. It's real. It's not fake, it's real. That's not something you can fake. All right, let's just do a final overview. Let's make this real simple. Let's make this quick. It's not complicated. God would not make it complicated to identify his son. Doesn't take a rocket scientist or an Albert Einstein or a Sherlock Holmes to figure out who the man in the shroud is. God made it simple. Look at the sequence of events. The unique wounds in specific places, scourged and crucified, right side pierced. The cap of thorns, the puncture wounds around the head. Part of the beard is plucked out. Cheeks are bruised. The back has been plowed on. Another critically important and always overlooked match point to scripture on the shroud is that the heel of Jesus was struck. Genesis 3:15, and you shall strike his heel. The shroud also tells us which heel would be struck, the right heel. The Bible doesn't say. We could go through every autopsy report ever filed in the history of the earth and never find another person with the same combination of all these unique wounds in these unique places on the same person. The body was laid in a long sheet of linen, and the body was removed from the linen before decomposition set in. And as a result of removing the body from this linen, there's some type of interaction between the cloth and the body, leaving behind what? A photo-negative X-ray holographic image, with the resolution of that of a modern-day laser printer. The combination of all the unique wounds in specific places on the shroud are the mathematical equivalent of a very unique fingerprint of evidence that can only be one person. There are no duplicates of fingerprints in the world population, not even in identical twins. Leaving behind a fingerprint at a crime scene is better than leaving your DNA. There is no chance that fingerprint can be someone else, a 0% chance. And there's a 12-foot-long fingerprint on the shroud. We all know who that fingerprint belongs to without me having to say it. The truth is written inside each one of us. God wrote it into our DNA. The challenge is, how brutally honest with ourselves can we be? The man in the shroud challenges us to be honest with ourselves, to look inward instead of outward. Those are where the real treasures are found, and where the questions we seek to be answered can be found, and also where the real problems are that need to be fixed. The shroud tells us the brutally shocking and horrifying sacrifice Jesus went through. And also, most importantly, it tells us the profound depth of love Jesus had for others with unmistakable clarity. Jesus led by example with outward actions, not just empty words. Jesus offers us a genuine rose that is everlasting. The world offers us a paper rose. The Shroud of Turin is the most powerful witness in the world who tells the most powerful truth. May that truth set you free forever, 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 forever.